Hi and welcome again. So today we will look at the differences between the Owasp Top 10 2017 and the Owasp Top 10 2021. So without any delay, let's just look at it right away. So I presented you with this image before in another video that I recorded some time ago, but this video alone will only focus on the core differences and my thoughts on the change from 17 to 21 top 10 security risk list. As we see to the left, we have the old list, which is, well, I would say to many people probably still really new, or well, for those who decided to engage themselves with the Owasp Top 10 project, like let's say some weeks ago, the 2017 list was the newest version. But just a few moments ago, Owasp released the 2021, which is now the final version. And as we see, there are some differences, some new categories, some new namings, and so on. Alright, so let's look at the old version that we all know a lot. We have injection, broken authentication, sensitive data exposure, XML, external entities, XXE. Broken access control, security misconfiguration, cross-site scripting, insecure destabilization using components with known vulnerabilities, and insufficient logging and monitoring. So, looking at the arrows going from the left side to the right side, we can see that the very first topic on the injection part, A1, is now moved down to a third place, which is good. I think injection moving down is a sign of developers and frameworks and lesser sized frameworks, I would say, or third-party libraries which you should never use without verifying its content and code. Well, I think it's really good that it moved down because it proved that people are using proved methods to avoid injection. For example, using prepared statements more, validating user input, stuff like that. I think that is a really good sign. However, I would say seeing broken access control moving from a 5th position to the 1st position, in my eyes, that is a failure. So yes, we started using prepared statements, we started to validate our input better. I would say this is what I see. But then we have broken access control just rushing from the 5th place to the 1st place. Now, looking at broken access control, newer frameworks, lesser frameworks, large frameworks, third-party libraries, there's a lot of issues with that then. So a lot of people forget the core principles behind how to create a good access control mechanism. You gotta know that creating a good access control mechanism can be found, the answers to those, that can be found on the Owasp side. So if you just go to Owasp 2021 and click on the first one basically and just follow the link, you will get all the answers to how to avoid access control failure leading to broken access control. I'm a bit afraid when I see that is a case for the because broken access control can lead to many different things. If you can access something that you should not be able to access, what can that then leak? Could that leak further information? Could the hacker gain access to other parts of the system, or is the system created with the same vulnerable access mechanism? That is a big problem. So if I were you as a developer, either you are newly educated, which of course then this will be a big challenge for you, I assume. But if you are old in the field, or just have some years in the field, I suggest you really look at whatever framework code you're using, look at the updates. Why is it that broken access control is such a big thing? And you can get the answers at Owasp too. You can go look at the common weakness enumerations they mapped to this particular A1 broken access control issue. and see, okay, so where is the issue? Is it code wise? Is it configuration wise? Has it something to do with the system and the rights to the folders and stuff like that? You know, you gotta look at everything to get the full picture. Taking the next one, called broken authentication, it moves down to the A7, basically in a new name called identification and authentication failures. I would say the new name, I would say the word identification and authentication is probably going to confuse people a bit, because we all know that if authentication is broken, you can authorize yourself as another user. If you can identify yourself as another user, in a way you also authenticate yourself as another user. So I would say you gotta read into the part, what do they mean with identification? But to me, I would say this is just a way of describing broken authentication. It moves down a lot to the 7th place, which to me sounds like thumbs up. This is really good. Broken authentication can lead to a lot of stuff like sensitive data exposure and stuff like that, which is the next one we're going to talk about. It moved from the 3rd place to the 2nd place. It changed the name to cryptographic failure. So that is a really bad thing. Okay, so sensitive data exposure is the actual cause of cryptographic failure. So many things will be exposed because of the crypto algorithms, or the encryption algorithms are too weak or not there at all. How can I say it? So it moved up. So people learned that, okay, so now we hammered onto the head, validate input. And now they're like, okay, we're validating input all day long. However, they kind of start to forget that use encryption, use hashing, use real algorithms. My best guess is that people forget to solve properly, or just forget to solve, or just not encrypting enough. You know, it's just a thing. The XML external entities moved down and is now a part of security misconfiguration, because security misconfiguration from the old A6 and the old A4 now moved together as a joint thing called security misconfiguration. I think this says it all. It's not as bad as before, but it moves up a bit. The reason that security misconfiguration moves up, in my eyes, what I see from my own students, from my school, my perspective, is that a lot of new technology is constantly trying to gain publicity and attention from developers and big companies. Look at Docker, for example. You know, Docker started out as a small ghetto project, and it was like, yeah, we're doing virtualization and containers. And now it's like everything like Docker this, Docker that. Alright? So I would say all these virtualization containers, all these pipelines, all these new technologies, you know, everything needs to be configured. And if you're using virtualization in Docker containers, you basically means that you're copying the same configuration as other ones are using as a default configuration to your system. In my eyes, that doesn't sound safe. However, it is containerized in a way, and yeah, I know that there's some security thoughts you could probably say, yeah, but isn't that a part of security that you can just spin up the container and it's like containerized, and say, yeah, it is, but is it like exposed to the internet? It is. Well, then you might have a problem again there. So I would say the reason for security misconfiguration to move up a bit from the 5th place is also because of the XML external entities, that they join the adventure together. And of course, broken XControl moved up, so something is bound to move up. It doesn't mean that security misconfiguration is moving up because of there is more of it. It doesn't mean there's more misconfigured stuff. But I gave my point to it, and I'm a little worried about all this containerization going on, and the easy spin up of software, and you know, instead of, I guess I'm just old school, you know, what is it you're doing? Are you just spinning up containers here and there in east and west, and without even knowing what you're doing. And yes, web developers are doing that a lot. Cross-site scripting, the A7, well, it kind of moved up to the 3rd place. Basically what it means that it didn't move up, as in there's more of it. It just got a part of injection. So because of cross-site scripting is on the 7th place, and injection is on the 1st place, and we see less of injection attacks because developers are getting better at to avoid it. Thumbs up for me. However, you know, joining cross-site scripting in injection, I think that's a really good move, because cross-site scripting attacks is some sort of injection attack. When you look at it, you have some sort of input either through the URL, like a get HTTP request, or you have some post HTTP request, or some other DOM-based attack you have going on, and it is UI injections in something, right? And this is being projected onwards to the user that is in the end executing the JavaScript. So I would say really good initiative to merge the cross-site scripting vulnerability into the A3 new injection vulnerability, which is kind of a new category, just with the same name. All right. Insecure deserialization is directly merged into the new category called software and data integrity failures, which is on the same place as before, the 8th place. It doesn't say anything about whether insecure deserialization is worse now as opposed to when they released the top 10 2017 list to the now new released top 10 2021 list. I would say it's, to my knowledge, to well, what I see, what I hear from my students in the industry, and when I read documents and stuff, insecure deserialization is probably going down, but I think the use of JVT tokens and the missing knowledge part about that, and the whole growing era of the REST APIs, I would say probably not a bad idea to keep your mind about it. Of course, insecure deserialization has a lot of things more in it than just JVT tokens. It was one thing I just thought about. Using components with known vulnerabilities is now in the renamed category called vulnerable and outdated components. I would say the name for me doesn't do anything that they changed it. Using components with known vulnerabilities, vulnerable and outdated components. So instead of saying vulnerabilities in the end, they say it in the first. So yeah, new name, same flashy card. However, it moved up, which is really bad. Okay, so it moved up from the 9th place to the 6th place. All right, so I would say to me, this is kind of the same story again. We have a lot of developers being educated every year, like thousands of developers. You know, no matter what kind of education you take these days, almost any university education, professional education, or any ongoing educations, like you do masters, you do bachelors, you do whatever kind of, you know, ongoing. You have a certain amount of IT in it. So you have biochemistry and IT. So okay, so what are you doing? I do biochemistry, but I develop code to. Oh, so you develop code? Wow. Okay. So and where's that code going to run? So it's been exposed to the web. Wow. Okay. So all of a sudden you had a lot of educations that you know have an IT perspective, but they actually do programming. And just look at the educational list these days. A lot of educations do programming as a part of the field, and it is incredible. I think it's really nice, but again, they know nothing about security, so this is really bad. So I think the component of known vulnerabilities is a part of the whole era that we have to spin things up fast. We have to constantly start new servers, do new services, use this framework, use this library, change the framework back, change the framework again, use new library, and no one can follow. You know, it's just moving too fast. and that will lead to using components, or just say vulnerable and outdated components, because the field cannot follow the fast pace that the industry is moving in. I guess that is my take on it. Insufficient logging and monitoring is now moving up to the part called security logging and monitoring failures. Doesn't mean that it's, I would say it's a slight increase, but I think it's kind of the same talk that I gave about the components with known vulnerabilities, using new software groups and using new software just in the end, you know, it kind of leads to the whole idea of, did you actually enable your logging files? Did you set up some monitoring services? What did you do? We have a new category called server-side request forgery, which is also short for SSRF, which is new, but from what I could read on the Owasp list, it was something vague about it's not that big. However, you should look at it for certain. Yeah, I would say it's still there, so look at it. I'm not trying to undermine it. I'm just saying that from what I read, it sounds like they like, oh, it's not a lot of it, but yeah, we put it in there anyways. So that's the new list. What do you think about it? I would suggest leave a comment below. What do you think about the new list? Do you agree with the 2021 list? Did you like the 2017 more list as opposed to the 2021 list? And what would you suggest changed, if so? So I guess for this video, that will be it. I hope you liked it. I hope you will subscribe to my channel and leave some comments below if you have any questions. Until next time, bye bye.